everybody. This is Carmen, founder of Doggies for Dementia, and we are speaking today with Robyn Maniscalco, who is an amazing resource guru. Can I say that? Guru, goddess, something like that. And Robyn is a best-selling author, speaker, and founder of Wellness Resource, which lots of great information. And today we're going to talk about preparing, what you can do beforehand. And thank you, Robyn, for being a guest on Experts Dig In with Doggies for Dementia.
Thank you for having me, Carmen. Glad to be here to
My pleasure.
help you out.
Yeah, this is our part 2, and we've been talking about all the things that are just overwhelming to people that become caregivers, because a lot of times we're not given time to prepare for it. And you had said something about, there's a lot we can do just to be prepared, even as any family should be prepared. Some things we can do ahead of time to make it a little easier. And I think that's so important. And that's what we're going to talk about now.
Yep.
So let's see, what do you think, some of the top things that we need to know as family members to be ready with for our families?
So I think that one of the key things to note is whenever somebody has a traumatic experience with their loved one, whether it's a stroke or a sudden diagnosis, or you're in an office and a doctor's telling you, hey, this is what's going to happen. And if someone is lucky enough to get it, especially with dementia, being diagnosed with early stages of it, you can do a lot more preparation. But sometimes people aren't as lucky. So being prepared, regardless if somebody already has a diagnosis or not, is something that you can really put your mind at ease just a little bit more so, with knowing that some things are already taken care of. Right. And I tell my clients often ask me, like, what's next? What do I do? And I tell them, let's take a step back and figure out, let's go before that. I want people to be prepared for before they get to that what's next on the medical side. Let's get you started from the beginning. So there are a few things that I go through. I know that there are a lot of apps that are available that allow you to save medical information on there, such as prescription lists. You can have doctor appointments. They even have where it's shared caregiving. There's a variety of them. I know with my family personally, we used Outpatient app, and it allowed multiple of us. Whoever went to the doctor with my mom would put notes in there, and the others would see it. I have 3 siblings, so it was easier to have a shared caregiving environment. So with today's technology, that's definitely one of the top my top contenders.
Yeah. I imagine that's super helpful too. When you go to a doctor's appointment, or if there's an emergency room or urgent care visit, to have that app. So when they ask you about medicines, there isn't that deer in the headlight look, like, I don't know what's been changed or updated, but you've got that up-to-date list of medicines.
Oh yeah. And it's great because, if usually within a family, there's one person that tends to be the primary. But if they're not with that loved one at that time, and there is an emergency, or, an ambulance is called and a neighbor is on the phone, you all have access to it. Prescription lists. Even you can put notes in there as to when somebody had a surgery, when they had a procedure, things that went on at the last appointment, shared test results. You can put all of that in these apps these days. And a lot of them are free. So it's definitely a good resource.
Oh, that's really good. So what do you think that the best search would be to find an app like that? What would you use? What terms?
I used personally Outpatient app. It's called Outpatient. And but there are others. It Takes a Village is a good shared caregiving if you have family and friends that you need help with caregiving for someone. You can put doctor's appointments where everybody could pick up like an assignment, something that they could do, what needs to be done. They can pitch in to help. So there's a variety of different ones. And I guess it's just narrowing down what your needs are for an app, and then searching some keywords from there. Or, people can certainly reach out to me, and I can certainly guide them on a few apps that are out there that I've recommended to others.
That's great. That's great. So maybe a Google search might be like caregiving app, something like that, home caregiver app, and
Yeah,
see what pops up then.
caregiving app, family caregiving app, shared caregiving. Those would be some of the common keywords.
Okay. And then the people that follow you as part of your, I know you do a lot for the people who reach out to you for resources, and then you have what a paid program, right? So that people have like almost a lifetime type of resource information.
Yes.
That you have that information for them too, so they can look at one place for
Yeah,
their
we have
resources.
our resources. We have a paid lifetime membership that gives people access to resources, and our database is growing on a regular basis. But we do also have what's called a Care Pick of the Week, that we spotlight different resources that are within the membership, so people can actually see what's out there and see, if this is something that they would benefit from, and also get some tidbits here and there, some information that could help them along the way.
Yeah.
And then that's mostly on the social media.
So helpful. Yeah. And not just to promote, because this is not just about promoting you, but I want to say I've never met a caregiver that wasn't overwhelmed. And so to have a one place to go to, if this is just words of advice, have a great place to go to for your resources to save you the time. And, Robyn and I were just talking about something we were looking up and how long it took to do the research to find it. And finally just said, yeah, I'm going to have to hire someone to take care of that because it wasn't worth the time to put into it. It took away from other, by saying it's not worth it, it took away from other things you'd rather be doing. So
Oh,
yeah.
that's pretty much the whole basis for this
Yeah.
business is you can sit there and spend 20 hours a week going down that rabbit hole of finding things left and right, or you can go to like a basically mediary, somebody who's, my team is already doing the research on a regular basis, putting it all together. We constantly have new updates and things change constantly, and it just all gets put in one space. And I encourage people, if you're looking for something specific and you don't see it, let us know what challenge it is that you're facing and let us find the solution for that.
Yeah, because chances are other people are too, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I think this has always been an issue for family caregivers, and now that we have so much on the computer, but we also have many more caregivers and many who are juggling work and caregiving, and how do you balance that out? So, yay, kudos to you for doing this, because I know we said this in part one, but you understood this firsthand, caring for your mother and finding yourself in that position. Yeah,
Yeah.
and go, wow. And so you saw an area that needed some work.
Yep.
That's
Yeah,
really,
no,
yeah,
absolutely. It's
yeah.
heartbreaking and it's emotional, it's scary, it's frustrating, and it's probably one of the most uncertain times of your life when you're in a hospital and the doctors are telling you, your loved one is experiencing this, or this is what's going on, and you don't know where to turn or what's next. That's
Mm-hmm.
scary.
Very,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, so we've got to go back. I didn't mean to get off topic, but that's really important. It's really important. So we've got an app to go to keep all the information in place. That's one thing we can do to prepare, to have that ready to go no matter. And I think that's good for everybody, by the way, to have your stuff in there. And so then what do you think the next and most important thing would be?
I think that there are a couple of things that people can do right off the bat that, regardless of illness anywhere, and one of them is a payable upon death account. People don't want to think about that, but you can simply go to your bank account and it's a form you fill out that you designate somebody in your family that if something happens to you, you you're designating that they just need to come to the bank with a death certificate and they have your full access to your account. Some people get a little iffy about having joint accounts, which would be an ideal way, but so this allows you to have complete control over your account. But if something happens to you, your loved one can go to, to go in there. So that's just something in general.
Yeah, to
Um,
help pay
yeah.
because there are still bills are still coming in, right? Yeah,
Well, the other
yeah,
thing was, I mean, when my mom passed, her funeral,
oh,
you don't think about that. Like the funeral expenses are boom. And if you can sit in probate for months, even years sometimes, depending on the estate. And so having a payable upon death account allowed us to go into that account and pull whatever cash she had in there that we can then use to pay for expenses, funeral expenses.
Mm. All
That's
right, so that's just a trip to the bank or I bet you can even call and do it online, something too. But anyway, at least a trip to the bank to get on the account to have that listed. And I imagine more than one person can be listed too. So if there's siblings and things.
I'm not
Okay.
sure. I guess it depends on the bank, but I know
Yeah.
with my bank it was just one. I put one name, but
Okay. Well,
yeah,
that's a
you.
great question, and for people to find out when they go, so they can discuss it if siblings are involved. And I don't know, a lot of time, I think it's a good idea that like there's one person assigned to the financial end of things. You know, everybody has a certain job, so that that is not all confused with people who's doing what. Also, okay. So,
Well, that segues into my next tip,
well,
which is
how about that?
the family agreement. So now people can go to an attorney and they can get a formal will drawn up and a living will and trust and go through all of that. Not everybody has the finances to do things like that. So creating something like a family agreement, which is free, it's not a legal document. It's literally an agreement within the family. So if you have a lot of siblings, a significant other, that's something that you want to discuss as far as their care. Whether I know with us, my mom didn't want to have a male nurse change her diaper or bathe her. So these were her wishes that we went through and kind of put everything together. Who was handling the insurance bills? Who was going to go through them and make sure things are accurate? Who was handling paying the utilities in the house, the mortgage, the taxes? Who's handling any of the financial things? I mean, who's handling picking up prescriptions, taking her to doctors, doing things like that. So this literally just lays out where everybody's in their lane. And then if somebody has a question about financials, well, they're going to go speak to Sally, who's handling all of the financials. Somebody has a question about a doctor's appointment or a treatment, they're going to go speak with Joe, who's handling that. It literally just lays out everything, and you can get as detailed as you want. When it comes to a point where somebody has dementia and they get to a point where they can't live on their own and they need to go to a facility or go live with a family member, who's going to be that family member? What is the situation going to be? Because there are families that I know that have gotten into many, many arguments because, the mother or the father came to live with them, they had dementia, and then they were taking money from their accounts to pay for things, and families just were like, well, you're using this money. Well, they're living here with me, I'm monitoring them, I'm getting their prescriptions, I'm paying their bills, and so it helps alleviate a lot of that family
Drama.
uncertainty. Yeah.
Yes.
And because
Yeah.
you don't know what you're facing, so being
Mm.
prepared with, okay, you're going to handle anything financial, you're going to handle anything medical, it just it puts people at ease and causes less arguing.
Oh yeah, I've had a few guests, and I've got a few more scheduled. That's exactly what they're talking about. What happened to their families? Because and you don't even realize it till you're in the midst of it. But when you're ill or someone you love is ill, we're not at our best emotionally for the most part. We'll say and do things that really aren't in character, or and so when it comes to it's these decisions, whatever can be made ahead of time is so much better to be made, and even with the person that is the one who's we're making decisions about, right? So if you can talk to your mom about it and say, hey, we're going to get this organized right now if we need to, how would you like to have that done? What would you like for this, and what would you like for that? And um, as terrible as that sounds, to even it's a whole lot better than being faced in an emergency and not know what their wishes are.
I
So
mean,
yeah.
we even made it fun because we didn't have this stuff before my mom got sick. So we had to do it post her being sick, but we didn't want her to feel like we're planning out your death essentially.
Mm-hmm.
So we had the conversation in front of her, and basically we each shared what our wishes were. So we made it conversational so that she didn't feel like we were pinpointing, her being ill and her being a burden. because
I
that's
see.
oftentimes with your loved ones, especially if it's a parent, they feel like they're a burden,
Mm-hmm.
and you know,
Mm-hmm.
and that's a concern. So
Yeah.
we made it conversational.
Yeah, I think so many of us are so independent that need someone else or to rely on them is the worst thing ever. And to even fathom the idea of relying on someone to care for you is really difficult. So that's wonderful. You made that conversation a lot easier. I personally, I'm in my 60s, but I wrote it out for my son, especially before surgery. I had everything. I was like, then I'm like, oh, I don't have that written. I don't have this. But I wanted to leave where he could find everything if I couldn't speak for myself. I thought, I sure don't want him to have to go through this mess and find my keys. It would be
That's really
terrible.
great.
But I mean, it's something we all have to think about, really. And especially if we're independent, then you know there isn't someone around to know those things. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so preparation ahead of time, so all the legal stuff and or whatever agreements beforehand. And
I
I
mean,
know.
some people like the other thing would be a healthcare proxy. You know, that's another item. That's free. You're designating your wishes as far as being on a ventilator, but you're also designating that if you're not able to make a decision, who can be speaking for you, who should be
Yes.
speaking for you.
Now, is
And
that the same as a living will?
no, so a living will is more of it's a legal document, whereas a healthcare proxy, it's a form. You can Google your state and then healthcare proxy, and you'll find sample ones that are just given from the state. They're basic. They're basic, just saying who you are. You're designating this person to make these decisions for you, and then you sign, and there's two witnesses, and the person signs, and then there's one additional signer as a witness. It's
Hmm.
not a legal document as far as it doesn't cost you anything to do, and it does protect you. And we luckily I had a healthcare proxy for my mother, because when she was in a coma and in a vegetative state, we went we used that. And even when it came time for her at the end, when she was on life support, I had to give them my healthcare proxy to say that I know her wishes were not to be on life support. She was brain dead at that moment. So at that
Hmm.
time, so it was it was a decision, it was a conversation I had with her before. I knew what her wishes were, and therefore it was easier to make that decision when you know in advance.
Right, right. That was something that my dad had made clear too. And when he wasn't able to speak for himself, we all knew that, but we didn't have it written. So, like, if his wife would have disagreed with us at that point, we wouldn't have been able to honor the wishes he had told us, right? So, how important it would be to have that written down too.
Well, the other thing is, if you have someone who's a healthcare proxy, and it's not the spouse, what they say goes over what the spouse said. So my
Oh,
dad and I,
really?
when we would disagree, I was the healthcare proxy. And because the reason why my mother wanted me was because she knew that he would be too close to the situation and
Yeah.
too emotional. So I was selected, and there were a lot of decisions that I made that he didn't agree with, but they were for my mother, in my mother's best interest,
Mm.
because he was just very emotional and he wasn't thinking rational, where I was thinking more logical. So it doesn't always have to
Mm.
be the spouse. It could
Right.
be a family member. It could be, someone else, a friend that you know that would really be unbiased in these decisions.
Right. Yeah, I don't know if you felt the same way too, but just knowing that those were his wishes, if we said we know he wouldn't want life support, it took that burden off of us so much of making a decision on his behalf when it was life or death, right?
Yep.
And life as it was, or we knew he wasn't going to survive off life support. What a terrible decision to have to make. But if you know already where you're coming from, exactly what they told you, and when it's written, it's even better. And then I'm thinking, if you're really going against, like, your father's in an emotional state where you're like, yeah, we have to wait longer, then Oh my gosh, you had it written. So what a position to be in.
And
Oh,
then, like with the case of my mother, my father wasn't ready to give her up. They had already told me that she was confirmed brain dead. So I was like, okay, let's take her off life support. And he was like, well, no, let's wait a little longer. And I'm like, no, this isn't what she wanted.
yeah,
And, as the spouse versus the healthcare proxy, my decision was to take her off sooner rather than later because it wasn't her at that point.
right.
So there are documents that you can go to an estate attorney and get like the living will and put things in a trust. And when you're dealing with somebody who's got an illness such as dementia, where those are avenues that you should absolutely look into because the person is alive, and then you're now dealing with their state of mind, and you don't want to necessarily have them declared incompetent, but you want that everything is drawn up legally, and you're protected and they're protected, and having a
Yes,
trust to protect their home, and
yes.
if there is a house, and
And the
there's
sooner
a
the better.
yeah.
The sooner the better for that. What you said that, claiming that to have somebody deemed incompetent and et cetera is very difficult and painful, and better to just have the decision and things very clear ahead of time, or as much ahead of time as you can. And for that to be discussed as a family as much as possible. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and the earlier the
As
better.
many
Don't
as
wait.
many as possible that need to be in the decision making. Yeah.
Because at the end, when everybody's fighting, it's always best to discuss it early on, even
Hmm.
before people get sick.
Right.
With any diagnosis,
Yeah.
at any age. You're married, you're an adult, you have children, you have your wishes known to your spouse. Put things down in writing, and
Yeah.
especially in an environment where one person could be here one day and they get sick and then they're gone. I mean, I hear stories like that all the time
Yeah.
about this person was just fine and then all of a sudden 3 weeks later they're gone.
Uh-huh.
Well, and they were 40 something years old. Things happen.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I think that really came to mind for me when I knew I was going through major surgery. I thought, oh, I have my son, I have nothing here for him set out, described, or for who I wanted to get what, give what to. I thought, ooh, I need to really have that in order. One other thing, I just made a short video with my iPhone and videotaped certain pieces of jewelry I had because I wanted to leave certain ones to one niece and another, and just kind of went through it. So I just showed and said why and why it was important. And I thought that's like my will per se for them, and it's in video. And I thought that'll mean something for them since I won't be there to tell them why. And they're
That's
adults, so I
a
don't see
great
them that
idea.
often. Yeah, just to make that little video piece of, and mine wasn't life or death or anything, but I thought you never know, and I thought, well, anything could happen. I should have that anyway. It was just a kick in the pants to make me do it sooner than later. It's
Now
important.
it's a matter of where do you save it, and then making sure that, if something does
Mhm.
happen,
Yes.
where can they find it?
Yeah, so it's in a letter to my son, and I have it stored away and on my computer and in a hard drive that he has the passwords to everything, so he'll know where to find it. And yeah, I had to think about that because it would just be like me to have it and say in that video there, and then he has I don't know how many external hard drives I have to find. So yeah, yeah, good point.
Even now, people can save it to their Google. You can create a shared album and put the video in there. Anything that
Mm-hmm.
you might wanted to have said to different parts of the family, and you label it.
Oh
You
yeah.
know, with technology these days, there's
Mm-hmm.
so much more personalization. Like I watch videos of my mother, and I'm grateful that I have all of that, and I had all of it
Yeah.
with having a phone
Mm-hmm.
because these phones record everything now.
Yeah, that's a little
So
production studio. That's a
yeah.
great idea to have a Google Doc and everything on that Google Doc that people have access to. Hmm.
Like God forbid something does happen to you, and they have your phone or they log into your computer, they'd have access to your Google Drive. Or if you sent a letter with your password to, you
Hmm.
know, um,
Well, that could be shared. The Google Drive can be shared. So you can
Yep.
have their email on it and they can view, not necessarily edit, but view or, what have you. So yeah, there's tons of things out there to make it kind of clever ways of getting the info out. Yeah, to prepare. So we talked about those top three things. Is there anything else that are really, really must add today?
So that was I had
So we
yeah, I
have,
mean, I think that was the I had four things. Yeah, the outpatient app, the family agreement, the healthcare proxy, and the payable on death form. And
mhm.
now I'm gonna add yours to the video, doing a video or something that explains
Yeah.
your wishes and even why.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I did it so simply, Robyn. I just, I have a selfie stick, so I talked a little bit and then I just showed the jewelry and said why it was precious to me and what it really was so that they knew. And, because some of them were like specially made or something when I lived in New Mexico. And I thought, I want them to know that so they know the history of these pieces. And I'm like, 4 minutes later, I'm all done. Anything else is all yours.
Yeah,
So,
no, it's true.
yeah, 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 just a few things like that specifically that I wanted. Yeah, that's great. So just recap the things that we've talked about. The app for the
App,
medical information, medical, and there can be personal information in there too, with like person to contact and things like that, just to
yeah,
kind of look to see what suits your needs. Yeah.
yeah.
And second one was
Family
the,
agreement,
mhm, yes,
discussing the wishes with the family and knowing everybody's on the same page, doing a healthcare proxy so that you know who's going to handle things on the medical side and represent you, and doing a payable upon death with the bank account so that
mhm,
if something does
yeah,
happen.
yeah.
um,
Yeah, money is a touchy thing, but it's so, I mean, if you can't get into an account and they've got the resources and you're taking care of things without that, like you said, it could be tied up for even years.
Yeah, I mean,
Mhm.
ideally, each person would go speak with an estate attorney to do a living will and a trust, but these are some alternatives if somebody doesn't have the means, because I know that some of these attorneys can be quite pricey, but if somebody doesn't have a lot of assets and they just want something basic, these are some things that I tell my clients that are some, look, you
Yeah.
don't have to go spend a ton of money on an attorney. Start with these basic things. At least
Hmm.
there's some coverage here for you and
Right.
some information.
Yeah, because there's nothing to say you can't do that yourself for your own family. It's not like you wait until you get much older and expect them to do it anyway. I mean, we're at a place if we could do it ourselves, if we do it ourselves and have that. That's a wonderful gift to give to your family members. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, Robyn. That's been great. Just so wonderful resources that many of us do not know. And I will say, even from a person from the healthcare field, we don't know, most of us do not know all of this where to find. We really know what we know and we're great at that, but resources is a whole nother specialty area. Not every place has social services and that you can get the help you need. So how wonderful that you're there. You saw a need for it and went and took care of that. It's just, I
And
can't
we'll
even.
actually be diving deeper into these topics and going through a lot more specifics on we have some upcoming webinars on topics like this, preparation and others, and like
Yes.
safety and some of the other things. So I'd like to extend, if anybody on your viewing,
Yeah.
they could go to caregiverwebinar.com and register they're free. It's free webinars with lots of information similar to this, and just diving deep.
Yeah, we will post that in the comment section so that you have that for Robyn because she's doing some really awesome things. And we all work together, which is great because we're all here to help serve and to make the caregiving experience successful. A difficult time to make it as really frankly, we want people to be able to just love their family members and spend more of their time doing that than caregiving tasks. Yeah, and looking up and finding and all other things, which is, you know, our big purpose with Experts Dig In, and I know that's your mission as well. So awesome. You will find all of that in the comment section. And thank you everyone for listening in to Experts Dig In with Doggies for Dementia. Take care.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.